on the science program committee, and he will introduce our speaker. All yours, Richard.
Okay, well, thank you very much for coming. I started this with another teacher in 1994. The only record series that's better than that at this campus is the Euro started
I don't
in
think, no.
1992. This program that's over in DR Hall 132. Well, this is a science colloquium, and we don't pay people to come in here. We just thank them for coming and sharing their knowledge, and we do local people. And for the first time, we have a reporter from the Modesto Bee. It just occurred to me last spring how much the reporters of the Modesto Bee know after spending 10, 20 years reporting on various things here. And John has a lot of science in his writings. So he's going to talk about several of those. And I only have one long, that reminds me, don't smoke! You know that, no, right? But I won't die on you right now, but I run out of air so easily. So I have to read this, sorry. I've known John since the 1980s when I lived up in Columbia County, and he did too, I guess. And he was a reporter for the Daily Union Democrat. We used to call it the Dud, but then they got rid of the Daily, so now we call it the Dud. The Union Democrat is a good small newspaper. Support your local newspapers for local news. He does excellent work on topics, on several topics that I love. I've never invited a reporter to do this, but he's a good example of how news can be presented to people in a community. It really helps. And so thank you for coming to be able to hear this too. And by the way, subscribe to the Modesto Bee. There's enough plugs.
Yep.
John is a reporter. John has been a reporter at the Modesto Bee since 2000. He worked at the Union Democrat in Sonora until 1998, and the Visalia Times Delta from 1998 to 2000. John has a journalism degree from UC Berkeley, and his current beat at the Bee includes agriculture, transportation, and climate change. And I have several headline B's here. I know you can't see them, but these are articles that he's recently written about various topics that he's going to be explaining about. Here, you'll see some of these same pictures in a program that he pulled together. So thank you, John. Appreciate you coming. And yeah, we'll record you. Please welcome John.
Okay. Hi. Thank you. Thank you, Richard, for the introduction. You can hear me okay? Obviously, I'm not a scientist, and yet I was invited to something called the Science Colloquium. But I do have training in generally how to ask questions of experts. And it's also nice to be a part of something like this that communicates about science topics. And I think climate is unquestionably the most important one that we're facing. This talk is not really about the gloom and doom of climate change, which is all too real. It is, I mean, we've had recent stories by other reporters about how extreme heat is going to affect farm workers who already deal with heat stress, and what it means for people with asthma and valley fever. I wanted to focus more on solutions that are happening all the way from the Sierra Nevada forests up in Tuolumne County down through the ag land of Stanislaus County and out to where the more wildlife refuges out where the rivers come together. And also this is not just about small pilot projects that are, might be help of climate. This is really about things that have taken on critical mass that are really starting to show promise in the way we use energy, where we get energy from, the way we farm, and the way we manage the forest, and also the way we build our cities in a way that is more where we don't have to drive so much. Let's see. So, and a common theme is just the amazing ability of trees to store carbon, whether it's up in the Sierra or on the orchards around here or in a restored floodplain. So, okay. Dos Rios, I don't know how familiar you are with it, but it is an area about 10 miles from here where the Tuolumne River comes together with the San Joaquin. And they have planted about 2,100 acres of former cropland with native trees, brush and grass over it's been about a dozen years now. And they, like I said, they grow amazingly fast. I was out at a planting day doing a story where volunteers were planting little seedlings, came back a year later and they were like 20 feet tall. These were cottonwoods and willows and other things that grow really fast. But just this past year, it really proved itself as a way to handle the flooding that we all dealt with. We need a lot more places like that, but what we have so far is really showing a lot of promise. I think you have one photo of the Grayson area, which is a small community. Yeah. They believe there, I think the few hundred people believe that the floodplain restoration might have saved them from being flooded this past winter. And also the floodplains also, they're great for wildlife. There's all kinds of birds and other wildlife. I had probably the most fun story I've done in a long time was about when a endangered species called the riparian brush rabbit was stranded by the flooding just downstream from Dos Rios, and people went out, and I was not here for the rescue, but the biologists went out in boats in the middle of January on these really blustery days and rescued like a couple hundred of these rabbits, and they might have saved them. They were, it was really fun talking to them about a month later about that. The floodplains also are really good at recharging groundwater.
That's short.
Yep. I mean, this is a photo, I think that a lot of these photos are by Andy Alfaro, who is a photographer for the Bee, and he also flies a drone where he gets photos like this that are just amazing. And they haven't measured how much recharge will happen, but it's probably going to be quite a bit where this water just seeps down slowly into aquifers that have been over pumped in a lot of places, and it's really gotten a lot of attention from the state and federal governments. They are putting a lot of money into it compared with past years. One other thing about Dos Rios. They are about to create a state park out of a portion of this land. Hopefully, none of it's open to the public yet, but some of it will be, and people can go out there and see just what it is, and they'll be eventually camping and other things, and this will be a good news in an area that is pretty underserved for recreation. Now, a little bit more.
More?
Yeah. Just about floodplain restoration. You could also my last point about floodplains is that they are right in Modesto along the Tuolumne River, the 9th Street Bridge and the Highway 99 bridge. It's a smaller project, but when you can see what can happen here. Okay, now you can move on to the. Okay, this is an almond grower named Christine Gimperly, who actually spoke here last year about what she is doing to make farming better. If you look around, you can see farms are mostly monocultures. They just grow one thing. And it makes sense if you're a farmer, you want to produce as much as you can. But people like Christine are seeing that you can, what she's doing here is it's during the winter almond bloom. And in February, where the bees are driven in from around the country, pollinate all the almonds in the valley. And but if they just have almonds to feed on for the nectar and pollen, they can be stressed. So Christine and several other growers have planted cover crops in the middle. I think that's like, what's it? Mustard and veg and other things that bloom before and after the almonds, so that the bees have more sustenance and they can pollinate more almonds. If you could go up. Yeah, this is the called, did you take these photos?
Yeah, I took that photo.
Okay, this is a.
Movie that we did, but Christine, she's great.
She also she's very involved with the Almond Board, and they have I think $50 million from the federal government to do something called whole orchard recycling, where an almond orchard kind of loses its productive, its productivity goes down after about 25 years. So it used to be that farmers would just chop them up and burn them in the open, which is bad for people with sensitive lungs. That's being phased out, I think, fairly quickly, like by 2025. So they realized that, well, we need an alternative to burning. Why not chop up the old trees? And when you're planting a new orchard, your first step is to work them into the soil. So you take care of that carbon from the old trees is stored, and it also, as it decays, it provides nutrients to your next crop. And I think the question is, will this pay? Is it profitable? That is still being studied, but the early indications are that it will be worthwhile when you consider the benefits of having healthier soil, less need to buy fertilizer. And
Go back.
one more thing about Christine is also planting hedgerows, which are like the word sounds like, you plant something that flowers next to your orchard or even within it, and that helps attract the pollinators, but also attracts beneficial insects, which are good bugs that prey on bad bugs. So you need less pesticides. This is it's something that's done all the time in organic farming, but even on farms that are not certified organic, it is they see the value of it. Okay, now okay, now move on to manure.
Manure.
Modesto's most abundant product resource.
I'll get personal.
It's The part of, as you probably well know, the primary source of climate change is carbon emissions of CO2. But methane, which is a form of a different chemical makeup, but methane is even worse because it's I think longer lasting or faster acting or both.
It's very short in the atmosphere, but until it's converted to carbon dioxide, it's like 28 times worse than a carbon dioxide molecule. Steve might be able to give that better. Close enough.
Okay, close enough for a journalist. As you know, there are a lot of dairy farms around here. There are people at this college who are studying this line of work. And they're for the decades, the manure would be kept in lagoons where the methane could just drift up into the atmosphere. And then they got the idea of building, if you look closely at this, this is a big pile of dairy waste covered by a huge tarp, probably, I don't know how many, maybe even an acre in size. They're enormous.
Yeah.
But they trap the methane and they let anaerobic bacteria work it, break it down. They still have some waste that goes to a fertilizer, but most of it goes to, it becomes the same thing as natural gas that you could get from fossil fuels. But burning it in place of fossil fuels has a much smaller climate footprint. I was at one where PG&E, actually there's a company called Modesto down in Keys that is very much into this business. It has took last year, it built pipelines, several miles of pipelines to dairy farms in Stanislaus and Merced counties. And it's piped to this location where PG&E now takes it into its gas lines. And this is an executive there who was at that dedication last year. Yeah, and this is like when I say that things are, this is becoming big business. This is the prime example because digesters used to be, pilot projects and, research projects. This is, it's really hit the mainstream now. Only thing about it is that there's opposition from people in the environmental justice community who believe that dairy farms will still pose a threat to water quality and will still produce odors. So we'll see, where that debate goes. But at this point, we are well on our way to new fuels. And
what do we have? More about Immedius.
Yep, the same company, Modesto. You may know that in Riverbank, there is a former Army ammunition plant that was closed and turned over to the city of Riverbank, and they are putting in what they hope will be mostly green businesses there. And one of them is Modesto's plan to make fuel for jets and trucks from ground up orchard trees and other woody waste. It's not simply burning the wood to produce energy, because that would have a climate impact. They're doing it in a way that gets them to what they call net zero, like below zero carbon emissions compared with what it was before. And then just last week, they got approval for a plan to also do this with used vegetable oil and animal fat. And again, that drew some protests from people who thought, this is just, more combustion but again, this is Stanislaus County being in the forefront and especially this company, it's probably more active than any other. The same company hopes to do what's called carbon sequestration way underground, which would mean drilling of, I think, about 7,000 or 8,000 feet deep, and putting carbon from power plants into voids in the aquifer. They need a permit from the EPA to do this, and they're still working on that. This has probably even more opposition just nationwide from people who think, well, this is, it's an untested technology, and you're also, giving fossil fuel plants more reason to remain in business. So I think this will be a very it's an interesting topic to watch, and especially because it's happening so close to home.
Rails.
Oh, okay. I'm a train buff. I grew up in San Francisco, and I rode a streetcar to elementary school, and just in a neighborhood that you could just walk around to several stores, and it was nice. My family had one car. I think pretty much everyone in the neighborhood had one car. Okay.
What?
Actually, I wanted to talk about it. Amtrak.
Oh, Amtrak. Amtrak. Where am I? Yeah.
Okay.
On Amtrak, I think.
That is the Modesto Amtrak station, if you've ever been there. One more. There you go.
Okay. Sorry.
I think that possibly the best thing we could do for the climate is to take a train rather than driving a car.
Good.
Just because there are a lot more people on that one vehicle than on if they were on 200 separate cars. The only problem is Amtrak it's a daily service, I think 6 round trips a day between Bakersfield and Oakland, and 5 round trips, I think. And another that goes to Sacramento at a terribly inconvenient hour, like you get there at 9:30 at night. There are plans to greatly to expand Amtrak so it's more frequent and it connects to more places. And it would, especially in the Sacramento area, would have up to, I think, 4 trips a day. And you could go onto the 8th. Okay. We also, you might have heard of the Altamont Corridor Express, which is a passenger train between Stockton and Silicon Valley. It is almost entirely for commuters because the 4 trains go west in the morning and come back in the evening, only on weekdays. But there are plans to, they already have all the money they need to expand it through Modesto, Ceres, Turlock, all the way down to Merced, and also up to into Sacramento County. And it's sort of the same project with the Amtrak expansion. They'll be using some of the same stations in the Sacramento Valley. When it starts, it will still be the same commuter orientation with a couple trips early in the morning and then back in the evening. But if they could get more funding in the more longer term future, it could become a all-day frequent service that goes in all directions and connects well with Amtrak and BART and anything else you would like to connect with. The photo is on the right is the Modesto's downtown train station, which was built, I think, in 1915. It was just renovated, and so it could be the ACE station. Only problem is that expansion project is now delayed again until, I think, 2026 because of the difficulty of coordinating the improvements with the freight railroad that they'll be using tracks that are on a pretty busy freight railroad, the Union Pacific. But the only bright point is if you can go inside this quite attractive building. It's open because it's part of the bus station, so it's open from morning and early in the morning till late at night. So if you'd want to, you can at least go and look around and get an idea of what's coming.
Base expansion of road getting on that map.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
You already said that.
yeah.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I began to talk about walkable neighborhoods, which is the idea, a pretty simple idea of putting homes close to within walking distance of at least the grocery store and maybe some other things. If you could do that, maybe your family could get by with one fewer car, or you could at very least you can burn a lot less gas. This is a project just last week that was approved in Riverbank. That is sort of that part of it's for seniors and part is for single mothers who are at risk of homelessness. In the I mentioned my own neighborhood I grew up in, and it reminds me that we really have not done this kind of neighborhood building for about 75 years because we thought we got used to driving cars, and but there's a movement now towards just putting living close to the center of town. This is a great example of a project that could be built on 7th Street in downtown Modesto, a block from the train station that's coming in a couple of years. They got most of their money that they need. They need one more approval on some funding, but hopefully they will start construction next year. It's about 6 stories, and it would be really the first a great example for Modesto because we have been very slow on the downtown housing movement, but I think this could give people an idea of just how nice it could be. And
Next.
yeah. Oh, okay. And this is one of Modesto's housing plans. This is their downtown plan. Our city government is very much behind the idea of putting homes, mixed use, as you call it, homes near businesses, near schools, parks. The downtown plan was adopted about a couple of years ago. They're now working on something called the housing element, which is part of the general plan. And that's it takes an interesting approach. Most of the opportunity for housing in the draft plan is on retail strips like McHenry Avenue or Oakdale Road or Sisk Road, where they're thinking of, places with, the parking lots are underused. Why not build 2 or 3 stories of housing there? And again, within walking distance of some of the things that people need. You can go online to the city website to find the draft lists every single parcel that's has this potential, and that they are in the thousands. Okay. This is about shade trees, which are kind of a old-fashioned way of dealing with climate. When people first built Modesto, they planted a lot of trees, and they provided spacious front porches because there was no air conditioning. The trees are one of our great assets, and not just Modesto, but in other valley cities. They reduce the need for air conditioning, and they store carbon, and they just make for a more pleasant neighborhood. The only thing is that they need care. They need to be pruned, and sometimes they are all too much. This, I think, was from was this the past winter, a windstorm?
January 23.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is what can happen if you don't prune a tree. And which also, I mean, you can prune a tree in a way that you still have a lot of shady canopy, but there's less weight in the inner part of the tree. It's kind of, I think, how a tree, not in nature, just takes care of itself. If some part of it falls off. Another one.
Yeah. Good. They're pruned.
Okay, and another good thing, going back one, City of Modesto just passed a 1 cent sales tax, and some of that money is going into caring for trees along streets and in parks. Okay, this takes me back to where I started my career
Oh, yeah.
in Tuolumne County in the 80s, and I covered forest issues. There was a lot of controversy between the timber industry and environmentalists about what to do, how to manage the forest. There was still a lot of cutting of old growth trees, which and some clear cutting, and a lot of litigation, and that resulted in the forest getting just more and more dense, unnaturally dense. And then we had that mega fires. I'm not sure which one this is. It might be. We had the Rim Fire in 2013, and another big one in 1987. But over the past few years, there has been a consensus among the two sides that we can manage this better. We can work together. A big part of that is that the timber industry rebuilt their sawmills in a way that they can use smaller trees and still get pretty useful lumber out of them. So that leaves the bigger trees still out in the forest, and they have more room to grow. They become more fire resistant, and it's possible also that this will result in more runoff from storms down to the valley, to our farms and cities. Because the trees would take up less water, and there'd be more that soaks through the ground and out to the rivers. That is, I think I saw one, a UC Merced story that estimated maybe 10% gain, but that was a few years ago. So I'm not sure what the current estimate is, but it's just one more benefit from having a healthy forest, along with having, places for recreation for people from Stanislaus County who would like to visit Tuolumne County.
Next. Prescribed fires.
Prescribed fire. Okay, this is my last topic in the top 10. This is a firefighter setting grass on fire intentionally because it helps to, in the overall effort to manage fires. This used to be done for thousands of homes and the timber supply and watersheds. But the result was that the fuel just kept getting more and more dense. So as part of prescribed fire, I think it first came about, was revived in probably about 50 years ago in Yosemite National Park, and has worked very, very well. And now it's become very widespread in the Stanislaus National Forest and other places. And it's also it's even lower than the forest if you're in the. I think I might not have any. I just have one more.
Back, Richard.
Yeah, well, it doesn't go back. I came to the front. So.
That might be the last one. I just have a couple more points about the prescribed fire.
I'll get it. Hang on.
Okay, it's
Oh, we have to go back.
indigenous knowledge. Yeah. Yeah. Start on that one then. Okay, thanks. Did you complete on the indigenous knowledge?
Just a little bit more. The Miwok tribe up past Sonora just got a state grant to train some of its members in land management, and a big part of that is prescribed fire because it has other benefits for helping to produce native foods and keeping. This is on more of a oak, woodland, and grassland area. And final point is that it's being done even in Modesto. A couple of years ago, I was in the Tuolumne River Regional Park, and Modesto Fire Department was burning some of the grass and underbrush so that they could keep the fires from going up into the big oak trees, which are quite a treasured part of that park.
Yeah.
That is all. If anyone has any questions. Thank you.
Well, there are, 10 minutes more if you want to ask questions. Anyone have a question for John? In the back here, Sarah.
Do you believe that the state will ever be connected via high-speed rail?
I was going to leave that out because it would take another hour.